Hey Brad, how you doing, man?
What's going on, Corey? I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Can't complain, man. Just came back from a little vacation. I got back yesterday evening, so just kind of picking up where I finished. I think it was Thursday or something like that. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I just got back from Austin, Texas, so I'm still getting things back together, but staying busy. I'm glad I could fit you in on the show today.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, no, man. Thanks for having me. I'm glad I saw it because actually, I was not in a situation where I had service for like about 3 days, or really like good service. So I haven't been on Instagram or anything like that in a while.
were you just like specifically like kind of off the grid, or was it just you went somewhere that happened to be terrible for service?
I had kind of both. I mean, just went on like a little trip, like just a getaway trip, and like at a lake, nice little like lake timeshare kind of situation. But it was in this area. It was like in West. I live in Maryland now. I'm from Virginia, so I went out to Western Maryland. Service is kind of whack, so I didn't have like much access to like no Wi-Fi. I had to be in a certain part of that area to be able to like receive text messages and stuff like that. So
Okay.
yeah, it just kind of worked out that way. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. No, I just asked because a friend of mine who I played with at a gig last night was telling me he just got back from a trip where they purposely like take away the phones and make it like you're camping, but you literally can't reach people. It,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, no, this wasn't that situation, but I
yeah.
mean, we had it. They already, it was an Airbnb scene, and they in the Airbnb it said, you'll have limited access to like cellular service unless you go about a mile away. I had the car, and we were just my wife and I were just out. We would go into the downtown area and just go hang out a little bit and do things, and then I could get better service. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No,
yeah,
that's cool.
it
I
was
mean,
cool to just get off the grid though, man. Just to chill out. You know what I mean? Just to cleanse your mind, I guess, in a sense.
yeah, I mean, it feels good that having things busy again because obviously it was harder to do stuff this past winter, and things are picking up.
Right.
But you seem like you've been extremely busy because I honestly we have so many projects I could ask you about.
Yeah, yeah.
I already talked to Andrew Randazzo on a recent episode of the show about the recent Butcher Brown EP, which was fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And I just saw today that you're working on a new album with Kurt Elling. How
Yeah,
did
yep, yep.
how did that all come together?
So through Charlie Hunter, who's been, we've become good friends over the past 4 or 5 years now at this point. And Charlie, we just, I had been a fan of Charlie Hunter for a while, but we connected through doing a gig up in Montreal at the Jazz Festival. I think in 2016, and he happened to be playing as a special guest with Christian Scott, who I've been working with for the past like 8, 9 years at this point. And so, I was excited to be able to have that chance to play with him and at least hang with him for a second, even though it was only a day. And we stayed in contact. So like it just became a thing. Like we knew at some point we would have the opportunity to make some music together. Because we shared a lot of the same musical interests, and so yeah, man. I mean, he reached out like back in, I want to say it was last summer. It's kind of hard to tell now, man, because everything's such a blur at this point, man. Because
Yeah,
time
yeah.
is just starting to move. But I think it was last summer, late summer, about hey, man, I'm working, talking to Kurt Elling, and he wants me to produce a record with him for him, but I want to bring in some other people to help me co-produce it and write for it. And I thought that you would be a great fit. And he asked me if DJ Harrison, who plays in Butcher Brown, would also be interested in doing it. I was just like, yeah, sure, let's see what's up. And I ran it by DJ, and of course, him also being a big Charlie fan, and Kurt being Kurt Elling, we were like,
Yeah.
well, shoot, I don't know what this could be, but let's try it out and test the waters. And so essentially, we went in the studio. I think it was right before Thanksgiving. We went in the studio the first time, I think, in mid-October, and cut some tracks. And it was funny because everything that we cut, we did it in Richmond at Jellystone, which is kind of like our Butcher Brown headquarters. Also, is DJ Harrison's home studio, which we've all, like, a few of us have lived there at one point. We were roommates at one point, and lived at that house. So Charlie came up. We basically just wrote right there in the studio, and a lot of the music that you're going to hear on this album was supposed to be the demos, the rhythm section demos, and we were I think going to re-record it or something, but it was just like, hey, Kurt, check these out, let us know what you think. These are just demos, mind you, just as a heads up. But one thing turned into another, and of course that went from just the demos to actually it being the actual cuts. And Kurt actually wasn't in Richmond with us when we did these instrumental tracks for the record.
Okay,
Charlie came up from North Carolina to Richmond, which is from Greensboro, which is roughly 2.5 hours. So like, we just cut the tracks there, man. And I think what was most important about that album, I don't want to bore you with just the whole story, but Kurt trusted us just musically. You know what I mean? He was very open, which was very important for us being the writers and producers for this record, and just giving us musical freedom and just being down with whatever we decided to do and where to take it. And we certainly kept him in mind throughout that process, just to make sure that it made sense. You know what I mean? Like, and I think the most important, the key to that recording and to this album, and the idea that we had for it was to make him as comfortable as he can possibly be, and not trying to, like, I mean, obviously, like, pushing him to, like, tap into another part of who he is, but not, we didn't want to, like, make him something that he isn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's obviously, it's more funk driven, more groove soul driven, and I trusted that Kurt could do that just because he has the right voice for it. So, yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of wild to think, and I almost forgot that a lot of the music that you hear on this record was actually demos.
Yeah.
That, we didn't expect for it to actually turn into the album, man. So, Charlie was definitely kind of the main piece that brought us all together. We actually we never met Kurt in person until like 2 weeks ago when we played in Richmond with the band. We did our first ever show. And so, it was cool, man. I mean, to be able to tap in with him and, like, catch the vibe and, like, see him in a different element, because, I've always known him to be more of a traditional jazz vocalist, but yeah, man, I mean, that's kind of how it started. I mean, Charlie he enlisted us, man, he trusted myself and DJ enough to just be able to add our little sauce to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really surprise me that much that the demos worked out, because between you and Charlie and DJ Harrison, that's a pretty stacked lineup for a record. So, like I said, I was excited when I saw that, and it's nice to see that more traditional vocalist with a long career like that is willing to take such a drastic turn on, like, people who are really leading the charge in the modern music scene. It's like you guys are all doing something new in the Richmond scene, and it's a really cool like wave of things to check out between what you're doing and what DJ Harrison and Andrew are doing with Charles Owens. And I'm hoping to make it down there soon. But like I said, it doesn't surprise me at all that stuff just comes together like that down there. It's a really cool scene.
No, absolutely.
And then with you and Andrew doing this whole Thump Tape thing now, I mean, that's I was loving the Instagram videos that you guys were putting out together before I even realized you were gonna drop it as an album. When you were putting them together, did it start out as just a thing for fun, or like a beat making kind of thing from I guess from almost like a production standpoint that you started working on it, or are you really thinking of these as compositions? And
yeah, it's a good question. Man, like with the Thumping Thursdays, I mean, when everything shut down, like it was kind of just a fun thing to do, almost like how we had done Mothership Monday with Butcher. And so, I guess it gave us something to help pass time and, like, a way to still play music with each other. you know, because we weren't able to be together in the same room for a while. You know, it went, you know, this was the longest time we had gone without making music. I mean, we went in the same room. Like, we went about 2.5 months without, I think, actually being in the same space, just because we were just trying to, like, be safe and cautious, and, you know, we were also locked down, you know. So, you know, Bumping Thursdays was just something. I think, you know, maybe Andrew was the one that came to me with, like, hey man, let's just are you interested in, like, us just doing these little videos every week for fun, and, you know, maybe have the community of people on the internet tap in with us and share, you know, themselves playing along. And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, we don't have anything to lose. So, you know, it went from that, just, you know, we would just try, you know, make these little clips, man, every week. And I think Charlie Strikes Again, he was the one that encouraged us to, you know, hey, man, you guys should just make a little drum and bass tape or whatever and put it up on Bandcamp for people to buy, you know what I mean? And, like, you know, we're not doing it to get rich off of it, of course, but, like, you know, it just seemed as if, like, a lot of people enjoy playing along to just, you know, drums and bass. It's enough, it leaves enough space for other musicians, instrumentalists or whatever, to you know, hop on it. You know what I mean? So it was just a great way to kind of engage that online community in a sense too. And you know, you know, we're gonna probably just continue doing it as much as we can. Of course, you know, now that you know, things are opening back up, you know, we won't have as much time, but, you know, we're gonna continue on with it. You know, we hope. And, you know, I think also what that did was give us some sense of responsibility. You know, it's something to look forward to every week. You know, like, I mean, we couldn't play music in the same space, so, you know, it gave us some responsibility in a way. And I think and oddly enough, it kind of, I think I've gotten better as a result, just as a musician, and I think Andrew can attest to this too. Just being able to, like, you know, the musical sensibilities, and, like, locking in with a bass player, and perhaps him locking in with me on the drum set, like, you know, I just throughout that, I mean, it's gotten us more in touch with, like, playing, I don't know, like, I mean, I was already into that, but playing a role and making it, you know, it's all about the feeling of the groove and, like, being locked, you know, having that feel and, like, it not moving, you know, making sure that that's the basis of it, and that's why we do this, you know, that's kind of our job in a sense. So, you know, that was one positive piece of, like, probably the pandemic. You know, it's like, you know, and it's the same thing for Mothership Monday. It gave us some type of discipline that, you know, was there before, but I think it helped tighten us up even more.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I feel like during the pandemic, when gigs dried up for a while, I mean, you know, obviously you're dedicated enough where I imagine you're practicing every day. But even, you know, for me, it's like, even though I'm motivated enough to practice every day, there's something about having a structure of a goal, you know, that's pulling you along, you know. So, like, I would get into kicks over the pandemic of working on Instagram stuff, and I could feel that making me better, because it's like I don't only have something to practice, but I have to show it to people, and I have to polish it, and I have to listen back to it, and you know, I imagine it's a good way to keep the momentum going as things were you know, dead for a little while.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a bass player, I care about the drums and the bass the most. So I also do just appreciate, like, you know, the quality of the beats. I'm sure, you know, aside from instrumentalists playing over it, a lot of producers are gonna have a fun little treasure trove of things to look through on it. For me personally, I think my favorite track is the first one, the Paul Fund.
Paul Fund. Oh, yeah.
Is the Paul you're talking about Paul Jackson?
Absolutely.
Yep, I could hear it. It sounds like some Thrust influence to me. I mean, it sounds like you're doing some Mike Clark stuff on that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. You know, we just had fun with the names. I mean, you know, as you can probably hear in pretty much a lot of the Butcher Brown music, even though, you know, we've evolved, but, you know, that era of, like, funk fusion, you know, especially, like, with the Headhunters, was a big influence on us. You know what I mean? And, you know, it goes back to just stuff I've heard as a kid, but, you know, it made sense, man. You know, like I said, you know, we just had fun with it. And, you know, being that, you know, as a band and Butcher, you know, we're all 5 producers, and, you know, in a way, and, like, we all make beats and produce our own stuff. You know, we actually all, you know, everybody in Butcher plays bass, you know, and, you know, I play some bass. I mean, I'm not obviously at the level of like Andy or Devon. Devon
Yeah.
BJ Harrison, he's also an incredible bass player too. But Morgan, him being a guitar player, he can get that on bass too. Marcus, we all understand the concept of rhythm and like how important that is between the drums and bass. And like, yeah, man. I mean, I think it made sense for us to want to do something like a Thump Tape just to give to the people, man, for fun, man, just to have a good time. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. So making that beat, I mean, was there a particular Mike Clark beat that inspired you for the Paul Fund, or was it more just like you kind of had that general idea in mind, and you two just kind of threw stuff at the wall together in your own styles? And
yeah, man, more so the latter.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, obviously, it's just like it's kind of ingrained in you at this point. With listening to that stuff, and between that, and like Oakland funk, Tower Power.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's
Rocco and all of that. It's just there, and then James Brown. So, we always mess around with those types of grooves. Just even if we're rehearsing sound check or at sound check, and we're just kind of like getting sounds and may just go into something, for a good 3 minutes and just vibe out. You know what I mean? And, sometimes it leads to a song, or other times it's just, hey, we just mess around with it, and hey, we'll use it for a Thumping Thursday. You know what I mean? And it's tough, man. Every week, I will say it's hard to like try to be creative every week and come up with something fresh, because it's just like, I don't know, it's tough, and it's slightly humbling in a sense, because like, you don't realize like, oh man, how vulnerable you are when you don't have that other inspiration just around you constantly, and you're just trying to like figure it out by yourself. I may, I'll send the drums sometimes first to Andrew, and I'll just like find the BPM, record on the click, and you're just like, okay, let me try to come up with a groove, or maybe I'll listen to some stuff real quick and then see if I can come up with a beat. Or sometimes, Andrew will send something to me first, record it on the click, and then I'll lay down the drums, because we both need each other to get that inspiration, because like sometimes I'll find myself playing the same groove on like so many of the same tracks, just because like, I'm just not, I don't consider myself a drummer's drummer at all. I'm more of a responder to like good music, or something that clearly is touching me in a way that makes me want to like play something. I react.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with like Paul Fun and some of the others, it's just like, yeah, that was a big source of inspiration, and that's probably something that he had been playing for a while, and like I don't even know. I feel like I may have taken that groove actually from like a funkadelic song. I can't remember actually. I don't even remember at this point. But some Sly Stone. It's in that family somewhere, and I just heard it and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna steal this, and then use it for a Thump Tape.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was excited to hear that influence, just because Paul Jackson and Mike Clark is probably my favorite rhythm section duo of like all time. I mean, that Headhunter stuff has had a huge influence on me. I don't know if you've heard the album they did together, The Funk Stops Here. Do you know that album?
Is it the one God Make Me Funky?
No, that's Headhunters.
That's
Straight from the Gate.
Yes,
but
I don't know if I've actually heard that, man.
Yeah. Paul Jackson and Mike Clark. The Funk Stops Here with I think Kenny Garrett and Jeff Pitson. It's awesome.
Never heard this.
Yeah,
okay,
you gotta check it out.
Okay.
And what about like Return of the Headhunters? Have you heard that album?
What year did that? Is that? This is post Herbie, right?
So this is like the separate Headhunter stuff, but one of the albums.
I didn't tap in with that as much. I don't know why. I just never checked it out, because it kind of, I felt like went a little under. It was kind of under the table at that point.
Oh, I get you, but this Headhunters album actually did have Herbie on it.
Oh, it did? Okay, yeah. Wow, I need to check it out. Yeah, no, I'm going to have to check that out.
Like I said, I'm a big nerd with Mike Clark and Paul Jackson, so I always dig that stuff. I mean, do you have a particular, like, drum-bass duo that is, like, really does it for you? Like, you have a main one or a couple?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll say that, like, real quick before I answer that, I think another big part of that inspiration was that tape, that VHS tape that that instructional video that Paul and Mike
Yes,
did.
yes.
So like I think Paul Fun is probably pulling from that mostly. Just the idea of those cats playing just some super fast funk, groove.
Yeah.
And so like to me that, and Paul had the bass kind of, he was sitting down. He had the bass kind of up like an upright bass in a sense, the way he was sitting. But yeah, like that to me probably was a big part of the way Andy and I hear music. But in terms of a favorite drum and bass duo, that's tough. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, I do love the way, I love hearing Steve Jordan and Pino play together.
Yes.
I do also love hearing Quest and Pino. Anybody that Pino plays with, it sounds ridiculous. Pino and Chris, Dave, Pino and Quest. Pino and Quest is crazy.
Yeah.
Drum and bass duos. I mean, damn, like that's just what comes to mind right now. And then of course, you go into the other side. Like for instance, hearing Thaddeus tribute with Spanky on, some of that early Jill Scott, also Eric tribute. With that. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm kind of all over the board with that stuff, man. But I would have to say, anything with Pino and Steve, stupidity. It's incredible. Just hearing how they lock up, that hookup, man. But Mike and Paul have such a crazy lockup. I mean, they were roommates for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In Oakland or in the Bay Area somewhere. They made that song. I forget which song, but apparently they used it. It was for a barbecue.
Yeah. God Make Me Funky.
God Make Me Funky.
Yeah,
yes, exactly. It was for some local barbecue spot in Oakland, and they gave them like unlimited barbecue. For that song.
Yeah, every once in a while I see Mike Clark posting about that on Facebook.
Yeah. I mean, those two, man, it was just such an amazing lockup, and you could hear it. You could hear the connection there. I mean, they are to me the basis of how Herbie knew exactly what he was doing. He needed that.
Yeah. No, I love them together, and I also obviously with Harvey Mason and Paul Jackson, they're amazing. I think number 2 for me though would be Paul Jackson with John Levy on Herbie's album Secrets. That's
oh yeah, Secrets is bad, man. People music.
Oh my god, honestly, like Thrust and Secrets are so close to me. Like they're both 2 of my favorite albums of all time, but Secrets might have Thrust be. Spider.
Might, man. I mean, as soon as I heard People music, that was it.
Yeah.
That was it, man. Especially the hurt, like when that's different. That hits a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know how you like if you have a particular favorite duo in the more like straight ahead, older Black American music, older jazz world.
Yeah.
But for me personally, Mingus and Danny Richmond is a huge influence on me.
Feebles and Fathers, I think. Yeah.
Oh, those grooves.
Was it Feebles? Yeah.
Like over the solo section. I
still gotta give him his credit.
Yeah.
Yep. Damn, that's a good one.
Is there anyone else in like more of a traditional jazz, like straight ahead mindset as far as the rhythm section goes that you think of?
Oh man, well, I love. It's tough. I mean, I do love like the way Billy Hart and Buster Williams played together with Herbie.
Yeah.
Like in that period, like late '60s, early '70s. Tony and Ron, of course, that kind of almost goes without saying. That's just Jimmy and Elvin, Jimmy Garrison and Elvin Jones, Ray Brown and Thigpen.
Yeah, man.
That's also another one.
All legendary players. I mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, and then even if we're gonna go more current, like modern, I used to love listening to. The way Reuben Rogers and Hutch played together with Joshua Redman. I also love, Brian Blade is like one of my heroes. And so like hearing him and Chris Thomas together is that might be my favorite modern jazz bam duo, like of like acoustic music. Just hearing them lock up, those are 2 guys that have like known each other since college. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, yeah, I love talking about drum and bass. It's I nerd out about it, but it's just good to hear what you and Andrew were doing on the Thump Tape. So I guess before I move on from the Thump Tape, I figured I'd ask: are there any other particular song titles on the track that like come out of a good story or like a funny little like joke between you two?
Um, so I guess like the track, man, LES. That was just kind of basically. I mean, it wasn't really a joke, but I love JoJo Mayer and that whole scene, Nerve, that kind of stuff. So I also Tim LaFave is one of my favorite bass players to work with, and he's a good friend, and Andy's homies with him as well. So like we kind of were channeling some of those influences as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Purple Sugar is definitely like a homage to D'Angelo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Little play on Brown Sugar, as you know. I mean, yeah, like it's we try to tap in with just different. I mean, all of it's just different influences. Like Plucking My Nerve is another one, which kind of is like coming from that JoJo Mayer, John Davis, sound that I've always had interest in. I love a lot of. I actually listen to a lot of down tempo music too, like Morcheeba, 07, Funky Puccini, a lot of that stuff, man, that has been a big influence on my playing too. A lot of those bands from over in like the UK and other countries in the EU. There's a lot of good music coming out that came out of there, and I've been big into, maybe perhaps because I'm a '90s kid, and a lot of that music came out in the late '90s, early 2000s. And so like I tap in a lot with that down tempo basement sound too.
Yeah. Now, as far as like the type of things that have influenced you like that, is there anything else that really like flies under the radar as far as like you don't talk about it a lot, but this really influenced you, like maybe even like an early like guilty pleasure or something?
Mm-hmm. Oh man, well, it's funny because like I didn't grow up in a musical family. My parents are musicians. My dad loves music. He's a big part of why I do this. But one of the biggest influences early on was Will Kennedy from the Yellow Jackets and the Yellow Jackets. Like I used to love the Yellow. I mean, I still love the Yellow. That's like some of the baddest stuff. I mean, Jimmy Haslip and Will Kennedy is another drum and bass duo that is underrated at this point. But I love the Yellow Jackets. I mean, they taught me about musicality and just being able to play songs and like how to build a composition. Will was somebody that I personally don't believe that he gets enough credit for his skills, but he's someone that was a big influence on my playing early on, and in a way taught me how to play behind other musicians and complement a soloist. You know what I mean? Without getting in the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, like because I didn't start playing. I didn't really know anything about traditional jazz until I was probably going into high school, to be honest. I didn't listen to that stuff. I was coming out of soul, funk, rap music, and some rock as well. You know what I mean? Just because of the era. I mean, you heard so much. I'm the MTV generation. So like I was hearing stuff on TRL, and they were playing stuff from Red Hot Chili Peppers to Ludacris. You know what I mean? So those were my influences. So but yeah, in terms, that's probably one guilty pleasure. Also, Pat Metheny group. I mean, that was all popular fusion jazz at that time.
Yeah.
That it crossed over to like, Clear Channel Radio.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even call that a guilty pleasure. I mean, that's some bad players. I mean,
it's incredible. I mean, I love that. I say that I guess because I don't hear many people my age that talk about that music. I loved listening to Paul Wertico, Steve Robbie, Lyle Mays. I mean, that stuff was incredible. Just how they wrote music. I mean, they were one of the first groups that I heard that were kind of like producing in a sense, like actually producing a jazz album. Like that was my first. And then of course, I go back and hear like, Headhunters and, see how Herbie was layering and doing all that cool stuff as well. They approached it more from like overdubs, almost like a pop album, which I always thought was really cool. And so it, I just appreciated the fullness of those records too and how they sounded.
Yeah.
Sonically.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I love all this music talk. I feel like we've hit on some really great stuff, but
Yeah.
I mostly have musicians on, but I'm a big comedy fan. My other guest on the show today is actually a comedian named Hans Kim. I don't know if you know the show Kill Tony, but
I don't know if I do. What does it come on? What channel?
It's on YouTube. It's a live podcast.
Okay,
And
I'm not too familiar.
yeah, comedian Tony Hinchcliffe. He has a host of, or a panel of comedians hosting and a really amazing band behind them, and they pull out random names from people who sign up to come do 1 minute stand-up sets.
And, that's cool.
And then they interview them, or some people are just crazy. Like, it's totally random. So some of them just make a fool of themselves. But great show. I highly recommend it. And their newest regular.
Right. I'm always looking for something new to check out.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And their newest regular is my other guest on the show today. But I'm gonna ask him a little bit about how what he's into music wise. But I want to ask you what you're into comedy wise, because I'm a big comedy fan. I love to talk about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't have like a ton of knowledge, but I'll say, growing up, middle school, to me, Chappelle Show was the huge thing. That was something that I'm 30, so like, I'm in middle school, like 2000. We're talking 2002 to 2004. I'm 6th to 8th grade, so I probably wasn't supposed to be watching that stuff, but it was on Comedy Central. You know what I mean?
It's like, okay. I was even younger. I was even younger at the time. My older brothers were watching it.
Right. So, of course, Chappelle, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, I saw him a lot. Jim Carrey, he's a legend, man. Just those are some bad cats, man. That was a special period, and to be honest, like it's tough for comedians these days. I was just talking to my lady about it, how it's just changed so much because of the culture now. You know what I'm saying? You got to be careful what you say. So, like, I feel bad for those cats now. But, I will say I was fortunate to be able to lock in and see such cool just improv at that time. And, I didn't recognize the genius as much as I do now when I was really small. But, back then there was a platform for comedians to have their own TV shows, obviously, I grew up, Martin Lawrence was another one, he had his TV show. So it was just like, I'll go back and watch some of that stuff now, and I'm blown away by just the level of, like, improvisation, you know what I mean? Like, kind of just like how we do as musicians, just being able to tap into different characters and, like, the versatility. Eddie Murphy, Nutty Professor, all that stuff, man. And, I probably watch more comedians on, like, sitcom TV versus, like, actual stand-up when I was small, just because I was too young. But, of course, like, man, those Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock are probably the two people that I could just sit there and laugh all day. Chris Rock might be the funniest person, though, for me. He's a legend, and I would love to meet him one day, because he seems like someone that is into music as well, and those are my people.
In your, like, traveling for the gigs you've been doing, have you crossed paths with any notable comedians or gotten to do any shows that were, like, almost a hybrid of music and comedy?
I haven't yet, but that's something that we would love to tap into. I know with Butcher, we always talk about doing skits, you know what I mean? Like, kind of finding that way to bring skits into the, into the forefront in a way. I would love to get with those legends. Jim Carrey would be somebody I'd love to meet, man, and, have him in the room, even if he just came to a show. Dang, that would be amazing. But not yet. I was in college at the time, and I remember being in the airport. We were in Chicago, I think, O'Hare, and Dave Chappelle was like, this is when Dave Chappelle was off the grid. And we ran into Dave Chappelle at, like, a Johnny Rockets. But I didn't say nothing to him. He was, like, on the phone just chilling. But, like, and no one bothered him. He was just kind of in his element, man. And I think he kind of was off the grid for a while at that point, that nobody probably recognized him. Maybe. But I saw him, and I was like, oh, that's Dave Chappelle. Wow, oh, snap. You know what I mean? But, That's the closest I've come to like any,
Yeah.
famous comedians right now. But hopefully in the future, man. I mean, I do love comedy. A good comedian is, it's incredible. I mean, there was a generation that I believe that was like kind of like the goats in a sense, and it was like, the generation of comedians that are probably, the OGs now at this point.
Yeah.
Our parents' generation of comedy, just incredible, man. And like the stuff they were talking about, you know what I mean? It was just so raw, but I love it.
Yeah, well, and like you said, it's definitely culturally a little more tense now, but I still feel like that's kind of the comedian's job, is to just tug at things a little bit and keep things loose.
Yeah.
I think
they have to, man. Yeah.
It like reminds us that a joke's a joke.
Yeah.
It's done for the right reasons, and obviously I care about righting wrongs and everyone's being at peace as as best they can in our country. But that's not what the jokes are about. The jokes are about bringing that kind of peace. About making people feel more together. And
Exactly.
like you said, it's an odd time, but I do think we're headed in the right direction. I think things are going really great, and I'm just glad Chappelle's putting stuff out again, because Chappelle's my favorite.
Oh yeah, I mean, anytime when Dave anytime he makes a special, I'm watching it.
Yeah,
anytime I see it, as soon as it comes out, like the world stops for me, and I'm like, okay, I gotta tap in.
Yeah, I mean, when he puts something new out, he's changing the game overnight. It's like when Kendrick puts out a new rap album. It's
same thing, man. Yeah, I mean, it's the same type of energy. I mean, it's like certain cats just like have that aura, man. That you're like, oh man, I gotta watch this as soon as it comes. It's like Michael Jackson used to make those epic 5-minute movie music videos or whatever, 10-minute videos.
Yeah.
It seemed like the world would stop and it was breaking news. So yeah, man. I mean, I agree 1,000%, man. Like comedy is important, and I think people, it's an opportunity for people to loosen up a little bit and not take ourselves too seriously, because it's jokes, and it's all about having fun, man. And like, it should be a place to take you. It's like music. It takes you away from maybe the day-to-day stress that you may have.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of like, vibe out to something, man, and laugh, and just have fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, even if someone gets offended by what a comedian's saying, they have to realize that it comes with the territory. If you want to go to a comedy show, that part of that discomfort that you might feel is part of the comedy. I mean, that's okay, so I've been doing open mics for stand-up past couple months, and like I said, I'm a big fan. And sometimes when I'm feeling off, when I'm feeling the most nervous, or when I feel uncomfortable, that energy can add to the performance a lot of the time. So if you're going and you're expecting not to be a little uncomfortable at a comedy show, you're automatically taking away from that feeling of letting it go where it's gonna go, and you should be riding a wave, not trying to stop everything and analyze it. Now, do you know Patrice O'Neal? Are you a fan of him?
No, I don't.
Oh my! Patrice is one of the greatest. He gone too soon. Like, his every video that you can find of Patrice O'Neal on YouTube is just like masterful and so good to watch. If you ask a lot of comedians, he's considered one of the greatest, and he would like. There are videos of him on YouTube starting his set out like almost attacking the crowd a little bit to create that discomfort, and then using his material to like win them back. Even like not nice material, like even controversial material built in a logical way to still kind of wrestle with the audience and bring them back. And that's one of my favorite types. Yeah, it's like I love to see a comedian who's not afraid to make the crowd a little uncomfortable, but still wanting to hold on and keep keep their attention and stay with them. It's not about pushing them away. It's about like challenging them to get the biggest laugh.
Yeah. And that's one thing that the little bit of knowledge I have of like comedy is like, I'm impressed by how these cats can segue into something else, like so smooth. You know what I mean? And like you said, they make the crowd a little uncomfortable, and they can somehow like reel them back in. I'm like, that's genius, man. It's a level of control that you have over people. Like, you can control their emotions. It's exactly like music. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you play a ballad, you know, of course it's gonna make people feel a way, and then you take it back up to a, you know, a more like upbeat kind of situation, a song, and then, you know, the crowd is like, you can feel the energy change from that, and it's amazing. Especially, and you know what amazes me is that a comedian is, you know, it's typically just one person.
Yeah.
Like, you got to go out there and like bring it every night. You know what I mean? And like, you feed off the crowd. I mean, and I look at comedy. It's all the same, man. It's a relationship for whatever 60 minutes of stand up that these cats do. Like, you know, the crowd needs to be able to they have to react. They got to give you something. You know what I mean? Like, this is a relationship between me and the audience right now. So like, you know, y'all gotta be able to engage with me and follow me on this journey. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
like, I think, yeah, man. I mean, comedy is dope, man, and you know, just, you know, being locked down for a whole year, you know, I've definitely tapped into a lot of different Netflix specials, on, you know, on that, you know, just on TV, and just check them out, man. And I've watched them a couple times. So like, yeah, man, comedy's dope, man. It would be really awesome to have a situation where maybe we do like comedy and music.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, the show Kill Tony, check it out, because the band is amazing, but also you see a wide range. You see comics who don't know what they're doing. You see comics who are experts, and it teaches you a lot about comedy, but also with such a good setup. You know, that it's very musically fulfilling, and it's like my favorite show. So I can't recommend it enough.
That's dope.
But yeah, I mean, I got to wrap it up, but this has been a great interview, man. Again, I really appreciate it. It's great talking to you. Where should people be looking out for your stuff online, and what should they be expecting in the next for your next projects coming out?
Well, I'm dropping. So first thing, I'm dropping a beat tape. It's an EP. I'm just putting out some music that I just worked on at home here at the house, and I'm calling it Vibes from Home. You know, I couldn't really think of too cool of a title, but essentially it's just music of me playing I'm playing pretty much all the instruments on this beat tape, and it's just on some, like, I don't even want to call it lo-fi, but it's a beat tape, man. Just, you can hear my influences and what I listen to. I'm playing drums, keys, and bass, and I had DJ Harrison tap in to play some bass on one of the songs, and Keith Askey, who used to be in Butcher Brown, the former guitar player in Butcher Brown, he's on the track. That'll be coming out July 30th. And it'll be on Bandcamp, but also on all streaming platforms. And, you know, my artist name is Fonville. It's just my last name in all caps. So you'll be able to find that. Butcher Brown, you know, we obviously just released the EP, Encore. We're getting ready to go back out here and start playing concerts again, which is cool. We have a Europe tour in the fall. And yeah, we're dropping some more music as well. We have some very exciting collaborations that we're going to announce very soon that are probably going to throw people off a little bit. But if you know the backstory, it'll make a lot more sense. But I don't want to give it away right now. But just be on the lookout for that. Obviously, the Thump Tape with Randazzo and I came out, and you can get that on Bandcamp. And also, it is on all the streaming platforms as well. So, yeah, man, you know, we're just be on the lookout for new music. We're always trying to drop music. We'll probably be tapping in with Mothership Monday again soon, as well. You know, we've taken a little break. But, yeah, man, butcherbrown.com. If you want to see me play, you know, just check the website, butcherbrown.com. We have our whole schedule listed of shows, you know, out here in the U.S. and also across the pond, and hopefully we'll get up to Canada soon and down to South America at some point as well.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, I mean, you guys are really killing it right now, so prolific, and I'm just glad I could learn a little bit more about it, chat with you about it. So thank you again, man.
Shoot, thank you, man. It didn't even feel like an interview, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.